and welcome to another episode of All That Film. Hello and welcome to another episode of All That Film. Today we are joined by Jude, one of my previous co-hosts on the last two episodes.
Hello.
And a new special co-host, Adrian.
Hi, how's it going?
Adrian, we're actually going to change things up a little bit. Name favorite director, favorite actor, favorite sort of any person instead of favorite film that we've been going with recently.
Oh man, that's hard on the spot, but I really like Ryan Reynolds as an actor. I know. No. That was like a half joking one. No, I.
Okay, that was it.
No,
he has
Christopher
a cardboard
Nolan.
cut out of Deadpool.
Christopher Nolan's
Gotcha.
a director of mine that I like. So,
What's your favorite Nolan film?
probably an unpopular opinion, but Interstellar.
Really sweet.
Ooh.
Another Interstellar lover.
Yeah,
I'm not sure.
It's a
I'm
good
not
one.
sure what I'd pick. I'd have to go back through. I was supposed to go back through all his movies, but I don't know. I just stopped midway through. But I think Prestige is sneaky favorite for me.
Oh, Prestige is a good one. That
Yeah.
I should have said that one. Dang it.
Do you have any thoughts on Nolan?
Do you know what? I don't think I've seen many of his, but the only one of his that I actually like is The Dark Knight. The rest of them I can take or leave. But I still haven't seen Interstellar or The Prestige, which is
Okay.
supposed to be very good. So we'll see.
Oh, the Prestige is, I don't want to say masterful. I think people use that term a little too much, but just
I'd say that.
Some films deserve it.
that film I think is one of my I have a lot of great films that I would put in my top 20, and that would be one of them.
Wow, great.
So
Then we'll move right along. We have a new segment this week.
Gentlemen, you had my curiosity, but now you have my attention.
This new segment, Does It Tickle Your Fancy, where we bring up 3 movie-related topics that have come out in the news world, and we see if we're excited about this, or maybe if we're just meh or uninterested. The first one, new Joker movie trailer just dropped. I haven't seen the trailer yet. However, we can still talk about the new Joker movie. How do you guys feel about this? Woo!
Yes, I'm very excited for the Joker film.
same here.
I think it's gone straight up to my most anticipated of the year. Saw the trailer, thought it was absolutely excellent. Like, I was kind of dubious before, and now I've seen the trailer and I think, oh my god, this could actually be really, really good. Because as much as I'm still dubious about the plot, maybe, I think Joaquin Phoenix looks so good. And even if the film is a bit rubbish, he will carry the film in one way or another.
Yeah, I can ride along with that. Definitely.
Yeah. One thing I was a little disappointed about with Shazam, I didn't watch the trailer because I'm kind of weird on trailers. We don't have to get into that. But I was like, oh, I'll watch it if it's before the movie. And then they don't play. And it's like, this is a tentpole film. Like, why would you
Yeah.
not have your next?
Yeah.
It's the same with Captain Marvel. I don't think there was an Avengers trailer before.
Really?
Yeah, but we'll move
Gosh.
right on to the next piece of news. Taika Waititi is set to direct a live-action interpretation of Akira starring Leonardo DiCaprio.
Wait, really?
Yes,
the thing?
yeah.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, I hadn't heard about this.
It's something that has been rumored for a while because Taika's really been pushing, like, I want to do this.
Oh.
This is the project I want to. So it really interests me because he's been so vocal about, hey, this is what I want to do. But you can run into certain problems when someone's so
Yes.
blindly interested in something, I guess.
Yeah.
Why Leo? That's what I'm
That's
wondering.
what I
Like,
was
that's what
thinking,
jumps
yeah.
out. to me.
I have no clue. He doesn't make sense for either of the characters. I assume
No.
it's a loose interpretation.
Yeah.
Yeah, it would have to. I mean, because it's such a staple that it depends on how they interpret it, right? Because if they're gonna take a classic like that and maybe they're gonna Americanize, or not really Americanize it, but just that style that Taika Waititi brings. That are they gonna make it jokey? Or are they gonna kind of bring that Kiwi spin to it? I don't know what he's gonna do with that with Leo.
Yeah.
I don't think we'll be hearing someone say, "Oh, it's me, Akira.
Yeah, exactly. That's the thing, because Taika Waititi is almost more strange.
Serious.
Yeah. Because I think when I think about Akira, I think of how good the world building is and the animation. And neither of those things I really equate with Taika Waititi, which is weird.
I'm interested because of that, because I want to see him stretch his boundaries.
Right,
what he can do. Because I feel like
people said the same thing about Thor too, because Thor was so serious, right? It was it was so epic, and like you're dealing with gods and night elves. I don't even remember what the second movie was really about.
Dark elves, come on, man.
Dark elves, yeah. Sorry, blood elves, blood orcs.
Don't
anyway,
get that
so
angry guy in the comments.
maybe he can take this and give it a nice spin. I don't know.
Yeah, well, hopefully we're better than the new Ghost in the Shell anyway.
Then on the same note, I don't know if you guys heard about this. This was the thing I didn't share when I found out about it, but it's really interesting. Netflix is doing a Cowboy Bebop live action miniseries, and John Cho is going to be playing Spike.
Yes, I did hear a little bit about this, because I don't really know much about Cowboy Bebop, but I really like John Cho.
It's one of the best, best and accessible animes there is out there.
Really?
I feel like anybody could go into Cowboy Bebop without knowing anything and really enjoy it.
Yeah.
I am not interested in this, but John Cho gives me a little bit of hope.
Yes.
The only thing I remember about Cowboy Bebop is sneaking in the middle of the night to the TV to go watch it on
Toonami.
Yeah, I was going to say Adult Swim, but yeah, Toonami at 3 a.m.
We'll move on to the last little bit we have. Disney says there's going to be more Apes and Aliens films to come. So Planet of the Apes franchise and Alien franchise.
Oh, okay. I thought there was some really weird franchise I hadn't heard of called Apes and Aliens.
We could get a crossover. That would be interesting.
Apes.
Yeah. So has that been confirmed? They've said that, have they?
Yeah.
I think Planet of the Apes is the easier thing I can equate in my mind. Disney doing Planet of the Apes. Alien seems a bit strange.
Yeah, I'm not interested in this one. This is a hard pass for me because they already finished the Apes trilogy, and I don't think they should do anything with Alien until they get someone that's passionate in creating a new story or something.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah.
It does feel like they're kind of oversaturating it a bit. Because did any of you see the last Alien movie?
Yes, it's bad.
Yeah. So we'll see. I liked Planet of the Apes, though. I liked all 3 of those movies.
But I think it's just a complete story is my issue. So I don't know if they're rebooting it. I feel like it's too soon.
It does tie the whole thing up in a really nice bow. So
yeah, definitely.
Then we'll move straight into our new segment.
Then we do it on. We make movie!
So this section is called Pitch Me a Movie. You have a blank check and no restrictions to pitch me a film based on the topic of the week. So this week, DC movies, a film based on a DC property. Hey, you can go first.
I'll actually bring up Blake's idea first because he wasn't able to come to this recording, but he still came up with a pretty cool idea. So I'll just throw that pitch out real quick. Okay. It's called Mr. Metropolis, a film directed by Bennett Miller. After the death of Metropolis Mayor Lex Luthor Sr., played by Viggo Mortensen, Lex Luthor Jr., played by Jesse Eisenberg, weird pick, becomes mayor through a rigged election. Immediately, the city hates his personality and his overuse of colorful false facts and propaganda. So in an attempt to be viewed as a hero, he enlists famous actor Terrence Benjamin Franklin, Zac Efron wearing a money suit, to pose as a villainous comrade of Superman, played by Christopher Abbott, and paints Superman as a villain and himself as a hero, Mr. Metropolis.
Excellent. Yeah. I mean, because there's kind of shades of Batman vs. Superman in that, and that's meant as a compliment, not...
Yes, yeah. I completely 100% get what you're saying.
Yes, I think the most interesting parts of Batman vs. Superman are kind of what this pitch is. So that sounds interesting. Yeah, I like that.
It would definitely be a great, because you'd have to do, the only thing like I'd say to him, again, this is blank check, so it's your own idea, but you might have to say it as Superman, colon Mr. Metropolis.
Yeah,
to
yeah,
get
yeah.
people like more interested, because I don't know if everyone's going to turn up for.
Yes,
but
you got to
yeah,
put like
I'll
Superman tails in front of it or something.
yeah.
I don't know. I like the name though. That's a catchy title, Mr. Metropolis.
Definitely. Yeah. Okay, Adrian, what is your pitch?
So unfortunately I don't have a title for mine, but ever since the Nolan films, I've always wanted to see a movie of Nightwing. So in my pitch, Nightwing is the new Batman, essentially. The rest of the Teen Titans are gone. They've either left or have been killed at this point. And Batman is retired, for lack of a better word. But in my mind, he has some kind of degenerative brain issue. I don't know. Just something that has kept him out completely.
Yeah.
During this time, Dick Grayson has kind of taken up the mantle as Batman, but he's gone by, Nightwing. And during this time, somebody else has taken up the mantle of Deathstroke. So it's not Slade, but Dick Grayson does have to take him down. And not only that, he has to take Slade down because clearly he's still operating. And this is, keep in mind, this is when Dick Grayson would be in his, I imagine, late 30s, early 40s.
Yeah.
So he's kind of tiring out. And I would like to see that. The importance of this to me is that Dick Grayson would see, he would see the new Deathstroke as a foil of himself when he was underneath Batman as Robin.
Okay. Yeah, that's interesting. I think that's interesting because, having people in the universe, take up the mantle of a different superhero persona is interesting as well. Because obviously we always have different actors taking up the same role, but not necessarily people in a universe playing a role that someone else has retired.
Mm-hmm. And I guess I should go into, I would still want Joseph Gordon-Levitt as Nightwing.
Ah, yes, I like him.
I think he's too old now.
No,
is he?
No, that's what I'm saying. This character would be in his late 30s, early 40s. Joseph Gordon-Levitt's getting up there. He's 35-ish. I don't know how old he is, but
I think he's one of those people who's older than he is, but looks really young. So he could be 45.
He's looked 10 years old for 30 years. So
sure,
it would still work.
Yeah, and for I don't know who I would pick for Deathstroke. I would think I would try to keep them as anonymous as possible for as long as possible in the film.
Yes, and then have him take off his mask and it's Nick Cage the whole time.
You know what? I wouldn't mind old grizzly Nick Cage being Deathstroke.
Exactly.
I really wouldn't. But yeah, that's my pitch. So,
and hey, finally, what is your pitch to me for your DC film?
Sweet. So I had a couple of ideas I was running through my head. I had this Batman film I wanted to, but that sort of takes a little bit longer to think everything out. I really want a Static Shock movie. I love the show when I was a kid. I think there's a good team that I put together. There isn't really much to my pitch. I don't have a well thought out, oh, hey, this is where they're going with it. Points A, B, C, and D. It's just, hey, this is a really great character. You could do something fun with it. It could just be really enjoyable. I do have casting, though. For the director, I got Carlos Lopez Estrada. He's the director of Blind Spotting. I thought he did a very good job of capturing the mood and environment of a city.
Yes.
And I don't even know. Definitely. I'm pretty sure Static Shock's New York, correct?
Yeah, it's the Bronx.
I'd probably set it in San Francisco just because he has that background in San Fran and he has such a good way of showing that too. But I think he could also do that for New York. I don't think he'd have that much trouble. For Static, I have Shamik Moore. You guys probably know him from Dope, or he's the lead voice actor in Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse.
That's where I know him from.
I think he'd nail this role. He'd be perfect for the part. He's got pretty good comedic chops, all these great things. For his friend, I had L.R. Coltrane from Boyhood. I don't know if you guys remember. I'm not really a big fan of Boyhood. However, he sort of has the look of a guy that's like in
Mm.
college-ish that looks like
Yes.
his friend. So I didn't really have much
Yeah.
besides that, except, you know, maybe like a Donald Glover or like Chadwick Boseman type as the uncle.
Mm.
But I hadn't, you know, I hadn't worked out who exactly. Honestly, Anthony Mackie would be perfect for a dad or an uncle. Now that I'm thinking about it,
I can see that. I don't know. I think people would draw too many comparisons with like him being in as Falcon in the
I
Marvel
don't think
universe.
people care about Falcon that much.
No, I mean, but you know, that's
no,
the
you're
first
right.
thing that jumps out to me. So
For sure.
Yeah.
I'm just speaking from that perspective.
But yeah, funny enough, I hadn't actually heard of Static Shock. But the idea of Carlos Lopez Estrada as the director kind of entices me. Having like a more grounded superhero story sounds interesting. So yeah, those are three really interesting pictures. I'm struggling to pick a favorite, but I think I'm probably gonna go for the Nightwing movie.
Ding! Special host getting the win.
Nightwing's a really interesting character, and I like the idea of different people taking up the mantle of a superhero. So yeah, that's my favorite of the three. Adrian, you've won the segment. Congratulations. You win
Awesome.
nothing, but
No.
No, you know what? I'll be waiting for my blank check to start this movie. I mean,
excellent.
Joseph Gordon-Levitt will be giving you a call soon.
yeah. As long as we can get Christopher Nolan on the project.
Yeah.
Next, we'll be moving right into a familiar segment. If you like this, you'll love this.
John, you gotta go. You're gonna love it. You're gonna love it.
The topic this week, as we mentioned, is the DCEU. We're talking about it in its entirety. So, you know, just anything superhero related was sort of the theme we tried to keep with this week. I'll go first. There's a TV series. I believe it's still on Netflix. The new season is on DC's streaming service, which I have not had enough of an interest in getting that. But Young Justice, I think, is a really fun cartoon. If you like Justice League, if you haven't seen Justice League, obviously watch that. But if you like the characters, it's just this fun world. The voice actors are great. The plotting is fun. Just check it out if you get a chance. Jude?
Okay.
Definitely. I've actually watched Young Justice, and it's good pretty much all the way through. So
Oh wow, I haven't touched it. I'll have to look into that.
yeah. No, the only thing that I wanted to say about Young Justice was it's very reminiscent of like the old Justice League cartoon, and it doesn't really skip a beat with like the characters and where they come from, the feelings that they have about certain things, the Justice League, you know, above them, like kind of being the shadow or always keeping them in the shadow, that kind of thing. And I think that's a really interesting dynamic, and that's what makes the show so great.
Sure. Do you have anything you want to bring up, Adrian?
If you like DCEU and you like bad renditions of movies, then you will love, I believe it's called The Death of Superman. It's a documentary all about the concept behind the movie that Tim Burton was going to direct, called The Death of Superman, and it was going to star Nicolas Cage. It was going to have Brainiac in it, and it goes through all the storyboards and has a lot of interviews with people, and it's just seeing a movie that never got to be a movie, like, and how it flopped and how it never got born, you know?
Yeah, that sounds really interesting. I haven't heard of
So
that
if you
one.
like that and you like documentaries, then you'll love that.
Yeah, so I've gone a bit off kilter this week because I was trying to think of DC things I liked or any comic book thing that I could recommend, and I was struggling. So I've decided, if you like Henry Cavill in the DCEU, don't know why you would, but if you do, and if you come to the DCEU for fun action, but you're always disappointed and wish it was done 20 times better, then my recommendation would be Mission Impossible Fallout.
Oh, I thought this was going somewhere else.
Where did you think it was going?
I thought you were saying Man from U.N.C.L.E. I was like, oh, sweet. I really like that movie. Yeah. No, but Mission Impossible is good.
Yeah, no, I think it's brilliant, entertaining. It's breathless. It's got great visuals. It's got, you know, visceral stunt work and effects. I think it's a film that DC wish they could make something as fun and technically accomplished as Mission Impossible Fallout is.
Scientology.
Yeah, and the Scientology.
Tom Cruise's middle tooth.
Of course. Yeah.
All that good
DC
stuff.
has none of those things. And it's missing
All right,
out.
then we'll go straight on into the main topic.
Actually,
Talking
I wanted to
about
clarify something real quick.
You guys
Real quick. No, so it's not the death of Superman, because that's a dumb title. It's the death of Superman Lives, colon, what happened. That's the name of that movie.
It's a terrible title.
Yeah, that's a really bad title. Your title is way better.
Yeah, not a great title. Good movie though.
Yeah.
Anyway,
Sweet.
sorry.
Yeah,
Moving
take all those out. We'll move straight on into the DCEU talk. So we're talking about the DCEU, and before we go into actual films chronologically, we're just going to give sort of general thoughts on the background of what really happened here and how we got to this point. Just a real quick question. The DCEU, successful or unsuccessful? How do you guys feel?
successful, I would say.
I mean,
In a lot of not culturally.
financially though,
Yeah.
very successful.
Definitely.
Yeah.
I guess you guys are right in that regard. Besides Justice League, all their films made a decent amount of money.
Yeah.
And they've had a consistent fan base all the way through.
Yes.
what I-
very loyal.
The thing that I don't understand about this is you look at a superhero like Iron Man or Thor that the public knows not much about, and they're like icons now, and they could have easily done that with Man of Steel. So I agree, or Man of Steel, Batman, any of those characters. So I agree with you guys, like financially they're fine. I think they just shot themselves in the foot for the next like 10 years.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
Because it's
Pretty
like
much.
DC, you have Batman and Superman, like the two most iconic superheroes. How did you fuck this up so badly? I mean, I don't think that all the time. There are some interesting things in DC, but like, oh my gosh, sometimes you do have to put your head in your hands because they have so much good material to begin with.
Well, it's because they start out with an idea. They like say, okay, we're gonna put this guy up against this guy, and then like that's the writing process.
Yeah, exactly.
That's all they had. So
Wait, so what's the actual plot for this story?
Yeah.
No, you misunderstand. It's Batman v Superman. We're more.
yes. So you know, successful. Yes.
Mm-hmm.
I just think it's one of those things that there's a weird, like you're saying, there's a weird loyalty to DC,
Yeah.
and
Which
it's
I
just
kind of
enough
get.
people that are like anti-Marvel, sort of, but like both can be good.
Yes, definitely. But that's the thing, like, I did start off by attacking DC, like, immediately, but in general, I think there is something very interesting and distinct about the DCEU. Like, there are interesting ideas in there, and I kind of like the general tone of DC. It's just often it feels like the films are completely misconceived and botched together, you know?
I'm gonna
And I
have to agree with
yeah.
the general tone of, and we'll get into why on a couple of these, but it is
Yeah. But I think it knows
inconsistent.
it lives in the shadow of the MCU as well. Like, and it kind of confuses itself sometimes on what it actually wants to achieve, how much it wants to distinguish from Marvel, or how much it wants to be similar to Marvel.
Mm-hmm.
Sure, yeah.
I'd agree with that.
And
Try to develop their own style.
Yeah, there's a couple of these newer movies that it'll definitely be interesting to see like where they go in the future because of that. So do you guys just want to get right into all the
Yes,
list of the
let's do
movies
it.
chronologically?
Yeah.
Cool.
Yes, please.
Then Adrian, give us thoughts on Man of Steel.
You know, my favorite movie, Superman Returns, was, you know, that was a good intro into like superhero movies, Superman movies. And then when I heard that Man of Steel was coming out, like the scale of it is epic. It really is. And it takes all all the way back from the origins of Superman and kind of dabbles in his childhood and that kind of thing.
Mhm.
So we're not getting the full Clark Kent experience. It's more about Superman, right? But the movie itself has hardly any soul, has hardly any feeling other than just you're special. And I think when you take a script that is when you take a character like Superman and you're supposed to make him relatable to the rest of us, it's nearly impossible because he's not like everybody else, and he could literally just punch anyone who goes up against him and kill them. So when it comes to like having him go against Zod, and we've seen that all before. They've made that movie before. But this time we had CGI and punches that break the sound barrier. So like I think in the end it becomes a head rush of a mess of a movie that is epic in scale but just has no substance really. And I also hate that they cast a redhead as Lois Lane, but you know, that's my own opinion.
I agree with almost all of your points. One thing I definitely wanted to mention up, and this is definitely going to be a reoccurring theme, is while I think like I will say DC, like all of their movies have been like as a franchise, it has been unsuccessful. It has been a bit of a failure. It's weird that like if you look at this, like don't look at the movie, just look at the things that are going on in this movie.
Mhm.
It's like these should work. These are great stories. These are decent character portrayals. Like these are good actors. Like if you run through the cast of Man of Steel, like if someone just said to you, Henry Cavill, Amy Adams, Michael Shannon, Russell Crowe, you know, Kevin Costner, Lawrence Fishburne, I'd be like, oh wow, like this is a monster cast.
Yeah,
definitely.
But then that being said, I mean, you have Henry Cavill, who he is kind of, I mean, sometimes he's a plank of wood, sometimes he's a good actor. But in this, he manages to make Superman look just dour, just all the time. Everything about Clark Kent, Superman, whatever, like however you view him in this movie, and this is kind of why I feel like the movie has no soul, because we don't see the good parts of Superman's life. He's just constantly like, my life sucks. I'm doomed to a life of special. Like, I'm doomed to a life of watching over the humans and making sure everyone's okay. But hold on, I'm gonna go be a trucker up in the Arctic for a little while. And
you didn't understand. It's a metaphor for a Christ figure. I don't think you caught that, Adrian.
I'm glad you brought that up, random internet commenter, because yes, I did catch that. And the thing is, we didn't need that allegory in there.
Yeah, it feels wildly misplaced.
Because he hasn't done anything to earn it yet. Maybe in the movie he did, but not to the audience. Maybe like in the universe that he's in, he did. We see, okay, what does he actually do up to that point? He saves a school bus of children. He helps Lois Lane a bit, I guess. And then he starts fighting the Kryptonians and blows up a bunch of shit. And everything just goes to hell, and people are like, oh my god, he's the greatest Superman, he saved us. Well, he's done nothing to earn this Jesus allegory. Who did he save?
That's the thing I hate, like most superhero movies, like make so much mess, like everywhere. And, like my OCD is coming out. Oh my god, guys, can you tone it down a little bit? And then everyone comes out of the debris at the end, like applauding. It's like, do you see how much mess they've made here?
Yeah. It's like 13 terrorist bombings all at once in the same day. And everybody's just like, oh, well, I don't know, Superman, he's a pretty good guy. Like by Batman v Superman.
Yeah.
It gets to that point where they're like, it's a political stance of whether you like Batman or whether you like Superman or not. And I can't help but think that, like, I don't think a lot of people would see that and say, yeah, he did a good thing. We have no way of knowing. Anyway, I could go on and on, but that's my.
I have one final question. Do you guys like Kevin Costner's performance as the dad?
He's all right.
He's Kevin Costner.
Well, see, my thing with it one of my friends actually brought this up to me several times. He says one thing that immediately fixes that movie, and this has been done in the comics, obviously, like that's what he was referencing, but it would make the movie more powerful, is that instead of running into a tornado to save a dog, which is a weird decision, again, because Superman could have gotten both. If he would have died from a heart attack, like it has been done in the comics a couple times, then Superman knows, like, he can say that final line, and I'm literally getting chills as I'm saying it, but he can say, like, he can look him in the eyes and say, Clark, you can't save everyone. And then, like, you hear the beep in the machine. And obviously, like, that's a sad moment, but you can follow that up with a heroic, like, fulfilling of that hero that you're talking about to earn all these things that you're saying just don't ever get to that point.
So am I right in thinking then that neither of you would say you like Man of Steel?
No.
It's a weird one for me. I like a whole lot of it.
Yeah.
And I think
I only saw it for the first time the other day, and I quite enjoyed it. I thought it was okay. Like, I think it starts quite strongly on Krypton, and like you were saying, like going. I
100% agree, which is weird because most of the time that would be terrible.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
and it starts strongly. I think, oh wow, this is quite different. I'm quite enjoying this. And then I have to agree with almost everything Adrian says. It does get very strange and bad once you get into the actual film itself. But I think it's kind of okay. I didn't find it boring, which I hear being thrown around a lot for Man of Steel. I thought it was, watchable for what it was. I don't think the action was as offensively bad as it does get later on with films like Justice League. I don't know. I kind of enjoyed it for what it was. Maybe my standards were a bit too low going in, and I was surprised when it wasn't totally
total
rubbish.
Garbage. I will say, for the hot mess that they've created, going back through a couple of these movies, they're all weirdly watchable.
Yes, definitely.
Like in their own, like, oh, there's a car wreck type of way.
Yeah. And this thing, like, Man of Steel is what, like 2 hours and 20 minutes long, I think?
Oh, is it? Oh my god!
It's short. It feels short.
It does. That's the thing. It doesn't drag. It doesn't. I got through it without thinking, oh my god, when is this going to end? Like, I thought it was enjoyable enough, if very bad, not very bad, but you know what I'm saying.
Do we have any other closing thoughts on Man of Steel, or we want to move right into?
I agree with Jude's point about the opening being good. They could have easily messed up like the origin and Krypton and all, but I think they actually did manage to make it like sort of original, even though it's kind of, I mean, it's a tired story, right?
And like
so they had to do something different with it.
And there were interesting ideas in that first bit as well, like people being born to do certain roles. The ideas of like determinism and all that kind of thing, which kind of makes Zod slightly interesting, more than Steppenwolf would be in Justice League or whatever.
Sure.
Yeah, Michael Shannon.
I like Michael Shannon as Zod.
Yeah, he's all right. Yeah,
he's doing some fun.
I will find him.
Yes, that scene is great. Like, it's laughably bad, but also like good. Like, I don't know how to.
I think you worked yourself into a corner there.
Engaging, maybe might be the word. Okay, so hey, what do you think about Batman vs Superman?
So I rewatched this one. Unfortunately, I didn't have a copy of the extended edition. I'm really sorry for all the DCEU bros out there. I will try to check that out. It's really bad. However, I think there's something really good here, and that's what's so frustrating for me going back to this, because I'm like, there's groundwork here to make a good film, but then you surround it with a courtroom drama, Superman being sad all the time, like an unearned, this huge battle of Batman v Superman. I don't know if you guys have seen, I believe it's the Dark Knight Returns. Batman, The Dark Knight Returns, Part 1 and Part 2. There is an amazing way they put together the Superman versus Batman fight. And they have all this background on it. They have reasoning. All of it makes sense. And I just don't get any of that from this. And going back on it, I was just like, this is the one movie that I think I probably will never rewatch, even if someone wants to watch it with me.
I just want to jump in on that. Like, I won't rewatch this movie, even if somebody wants to watch with me. My wife and I watched this together in the movie theater when we were still dating, and I think the date didn't go well because of that movie.
Yeah.
Oh man.
No, but we both just kind of looked at each other.
How'd you not take her to Justice League with you?
I think we both saw the trailer for Justice League and we just kind of looked at each other and then didn't say anything. We were like, nope. No, I'm sorry. I want to hear Jude's thoughts on it though.
Well, I saw Batman vs Superman before I was really into film, and I knew very little about DC or superheroes or anything. And I remember kind of enjoying it because I really like Jesse Eisenberg's performance, and I kind of put down most of my confusion in the film to the fact that I knew nothing about DC, and I kind of got out afterwards. I thought, oh no, it was confusing for everyone then. And then over the coming months, my opinion of it soured quite a lot. But my opinion of it flip flops a lot. Because I didn't get the chance to rewatch it, but I did quickly look at the Wikipedia plot summary before the podcast, and I was reading through it. I was like, oh god, this is actually quite a good story.
Again, this is another of those stories. You just move back for a second, and it's like there's something here.
Exactly, yeah. And the conflict between Batman and Superman when they're not doing stupid fighting or whatever is kind of interesting, and the conflict between the people and Superman as well. That bit in the court is kind of interesting as well. But as soon as it tries to spring into action or anything, it really collapses for me.
Sure. I agree with you that the reasoning sort of makes sense at the beginning. I personally love the opening shot or the opening scene where, you do the pearls with the credits. I think that's a really good way to start the Batman origin because, it would seem repetitive to do a full scene. And then you go right into Man of Steel. And a lot of people complained about Man of Steel. They tear down all these buildings. And I think they addressed it quite well. But then everything after that, it just wasn't the proper way to go about that. It's a good idea. But I think the problem here is Superman needs to be changed. And I was actually going to mention this on Man of Steel, but I think it's more of a problem in this one where we have a dour Superman that's so without hope and not inspiring in any way.
Yeah.
And I'd like to reference this great scene in one of the Superman comics where there's this girl, she's on a ledge, she's about to jump off. She's yelling at the world. She's like, why would you do this to me? Why did you give me this life? Getting ready to jump. And Superman shows up, sits right next to her on the ledge. And I can't remember the exact words he says, but he just talks to her. He's like, life isn't, there's problems we have, and there's a lot that everyone's dealing with, but life is never as bad as it seems, and you are a lot stronger than you think you are. And at the end of it, she comes down, goes with Superman, and I know he's saving people in this, but that one act of being what a real superhero is would have been such a nice bonus to see.
Yeah, because he doesn't. That I think maybe you're hitting on a point that I was kind of developing on, but you just saying that brings to mind that this isn't his day job. He does this because it's the right thing to do. He does it because it's the good thing to do. But I couldn't escape the feeling that during Batman v Superman, he's saving people during Katrina and he's putting out fires, but it's just a thing that he has to do.
Yeah, he's checking his watch as he's doing
that scene in Mexico City, or maybe it's not in Mexico City, but in Mexico where they're celebrating Day of the Dead, it just looks like they're worshiping him. And he's like, I guess I gotta save people again.
Yeah, that's true. They come around him and he's just got this face of another day at the office. What?
And you couldn't imagine Henry Cavill doing something human like you mentioned in the comic. And, I don't know if that is Henry Cavill's fault or Zack Snyder's fault.
I really wanted to see what Man of Steel 2 would be, because they obviously weren't going to have Snyder and they still were going to have Cavill. Because I think there is a little bit of restraint that Snyder wanted something different with Superman that I think he is not all on Henry Cavill.
I don't know, but I don't mind the super serious tone that DC went for in these earlier films, Because I feel like if they stick to it, at some point they will finally, maybe eventually, make a really good film.
Speaking of tone, Suicide Squad.
Ah, yes.
What do you think of that one?
Honestly, on reflection, probably one of the worst films I've ever seen. Like, I think the best description I saw of Suicide Squad is that it's a 2-hour trailer for a 10-hour film.
Yes. Oh my
Because
God.
literally nothing in it stitches together at all, and you're just constantly lost about what you're currently supposed to be focusing on, or what they're doing, or anything.
Yeah, I completely agree.
I think I'm gonna be devil's advocate here in the slightest bit possible. Keep in mind, while I'm saying this, I tried to watch as much of it as I could, but we started a little bit early. I rewatched a little bit of Suicide Squad, got about an hour through. I only had the extended edition. I will say,
God.
for whatever reason, the minor changes they add, I think they did some really great work. Whoever the editor was it
Really?
for the part really made certain scenes a little bit better. But I 100% agree with you guys, because I'm about to get to the part where it's just them shooting black gray monsters and Cara Delevingne's gonna do the weird dance and heroes stop the sky beam. That trope is gonna come in. But there are some things, because I'm with you guys, it was one of my least favorite movies ever,
Yeah.
like period.
And
I
the
think
thing,
going back to it with that reference, there's some things that work for me. I mean, I can get into it, but you guys
Okay.
can keep talking about the bad if you want to.
no, go ahead.
No, just
For instance, like Viola Davis as Amanda Waller, I think that's great casting.
Well, yes, I suppose. Although I don't really like the character, because like I don't know, like a whole plan seems so stupid.
And I think, again, adding on to this, I think going into the movie, realizing like the whole crux of the story is flawed in that they say literally at the beginning, and they advertised it at this as what if Superman came down from the sky and he was a bad guy? And it's like, okay, well, you gathered a crazy woman, a guy that can shoot well, who's, for someone that's bulletproof, a guy with boomerangs, you know, a crocodile. Like, none of these things make sense. But,
a crocodile.
But again, if you know that going into it, and I'm not saying it's good. I'm not saying it's even close. It's much worse than bad, but I'm saying there are moments that are fine. Will Smith has his daughter backstory is really weird. Because she's
that
really
was
bad
the weakest
at acting.
motivation I think I've seen.
Yes, yeah. But the thing is, I like the idea of you have these villains, and at the beginning you show them, because I think right off the bat, minute 1, they mess up because they show all of them in jail. And I think what you should do is just show like a quick, keep doing 1-minute origins. And I get that would seem messy, but if you have all these people that are bringing them in, I like the idea of Flash brings in Captain Boomerang. You know, Batman brings in 2 of these people. But why does Batman have to kiss Harley Quinn? Why does he have to say he wants to kill Deadshot? Like,
like I think you bring up a good point there, that like it starts off in jail and then they keep whiplashing the audience back and forth between flashbacks. And I think it would have been so much simpler to show, like, okay, because this movie is clearly more about Harley Quinn and Deadshot than anybody else. So
Killer Croc would beg to differ, sir. I'm beautiful. That's one of the worst lines.
God,
but yeah, continue.
Anyway. No, just so take those 2 scenes where Batman punches Harley Quinn in the face and then ruins Deadshot's daddy-daughter time, and put it at the beginning of the film instead of like in the middle, because they're
intersplicing them. Yeah.
By the time we've gotten to that point, it's like what, maybe 30-40 minutes into the film. I can't remember exactly the time.
It's about 20.
Okay, so 20 minutes into the film, but by that point we've all we've already
music
started to
drops
develop
every
these...
minute.
We've gone through 5 songs already. Yeah. How can you expect us to, like, in a sixth of the way through the film, we're supposed to now have another thing like, oh, we're supposed to care about these characters. Like, that's what you're supposed to do at the beginning. But they play, like, imagine if this was the first DC movie you had seen. Just really isolate it.
Oh my god.
Imagine if this was the first one. You start off at a prison. Some woman is saying, these are the worst criminals in the world. And like, you've got some weird bicolored hair girl who's blowing bubble gum and doing gymnastics, and then Deadshot who's working out, and they're just there. We don't know anything about them. And like the scenes where they talk about that, suddenly Batman shows up. So I think there's a very distinct lack of self-awareness with this film.
Yeah.
Sure. Yeah, that's definitely a huge problem in it. But again, and Jude, I'm interested in to hear how you would go about this. I think this is again one of those instances where there's a basis here that's great, and there's a great movie that can be made, and there's easy fixes that can do it. But they chose to go a completely different way. Obviously, one huge one is the obvious one that's hitting Warner Bros. In the face, like, make Joker the main villain.
Yes.
And they're like, did you say Ghost Lady? And it's like, no, make Joker main villain. They're like, but she dances.
Yes. We spent a lot of money with the CGI. All the smoke coming off her and the beam, it looks really cool.
And that's the thing, though, they couldn't even stitch together like a really basic cliche-ridden story. Like, even that would have been better than what we got, which is just totally incomprehensible and impossible to follow. And like, I feel like the whole thing is so forgettable as well, which I think is probably its biggest crime, because you have all of these kind of interesting characters, right? I mean, yeah, like you say, the biggest criminals in the world. Like, yeah, good basis for a film. And then it's not fun at all during the whole film. And you think there'd at least be those moments of, of something going on, and there's just not in the whole film.
Right. It really drags a lot.
Yes, exactly.
I think I wanted to ask, did you guys notice that there's a scene that is literally copy pasted from its own movie?
No.
Like, okay, so not literally, obviously they didn't take a stretch of the film and just put it in again, but I mean,
wouldn't be surprised.
So there's a scene, right? There's that scene, the first fight scene when they're in the city, and Slipknot tries to get away and gets his head blown off, and then
which is so bad.
He can climb anything.
I'm the guy that climbs things. Oh, you're dead. You're gone.
So that they're there and they see the blob men off in the distance, right? And they start fighting them. And there's a point in the action scene where they start losing, and oh no, what are we going to do? And Deadshot commits, right? He starts committing to the team. Mm-hmm. Flash forward 5 minutes later, that exact scene happens again.
It does.
Where they're up in the building, and they're like, oh man, what are these guys? And they're blob men again, and they come and they start attacking them, and they're like, oh no. And then El Tigre, El Fuego, whatever his name is, I don't even remember.
Human Torch.
Spanish Human Torch. He commits, and then he saves the day. It's the same thing. And I remember sitting there in the film, I was like,
"Is a lot of this movie is just and then, oh man!"
And then they find Viola Davis, and she's sitting there, and she's like, "Thank you for saving me!" Bang, 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 bang. And you're like, "Wait, what?"
Oh, man.
Anyway, I want to move on from this because this is going to be the half of the podcast.
Sure, for sure. Talking about Adrian's favorite movie. Then we can move straight on into Wonder Woman talk. So, Adrian, you can take the lead on that.
Okay. I'll keep this one brief, but Wonder Woman was probably my favorite out of all of these.
Yeah.
It is a great like fish out of water superhero story. And by that I mean like, she knows her world but she doesn't know the outside world, and she wants to be the hero, but it's not always that binary good and bad. And I think this movie shows that really well. It really caps it off at the end with a bad CG fight, but other than that, I think they weren't overly indulgent with Chris Pine's character. Gal Gadot does okay for most of it, and my only gripe is that they felt they had to edit or have everybody else change their accents to match Gal Gadot's, but I digress.
One of the problems I had with it, they make Gal Gadot's like Wonder Woman portrayal in the first beginning part, just because you're a fish out of water. Like the way they do Thor and Thor 1 is he's goofy and like he just doesn't know the situation. But for whatever reason, they make Diana in this film, like they make her look really dumb. And that just bothered me, like going back to it. Because like all the characters are like, she's like, ooh, ice cream. And like,
I will say, yeah, that's true.
What happened? Like, she'd be like, what is ice cream? Like,
yeah.
They just make her like really dumb, and they try like, I don't know. I really like Chris Pine, but there's just something weird with that dynamic that doesn't necessarily work with me. But I will say,
I'll agree.
The first of these films that I'd call a cohesive, like sticks to one story, a fine movie.
I'll agree with like, okay, it seems like they kind of water her down a little bit and make her seem kind of dumb, but in the context of the story, like the fact that she comes from a place where there are no men, so there's not really I wouldn't say gender equality, but suddenly she's surrounded by men, and they all think that no matter what, she has no place in she has no say in anything specifically because she's a woman. So that in and of itself, like, it was hard enough for women back then who lived in that time in that kind of society. So I don't know. I think that kind of balances out the, oh, look at that side of her.
I 100% agree with you, because I actually really enjoy those moments, because it makes when she does that stand that of course everybody knows on, I forget where it is, but that's a really powerful like scene. It's great.
Yeah, definitely.
Like you said, bad CGI, and for whatever reason they leave a mustache on Ares.
Oh man, that was the weirdest part. It's this huge Ares like figure and David Thewlis's face. You can't win.
I mean, I went into it quite cynical, but I completely agree. I think it was really enjoyable. I think the dynamic between Chris Pine and Gal Gadot is probably the most memorable, my favorite part of the film, I think. And yeah, I mean, I wasn't expecting to enjoy it, and I did. I thought it was really impressive until you get to that third act, which really puts a big damper on it for me. If it wasn't for that, it'd be a 4 out of 5 for me. I think it's really enjoyable for those first two acts. But
I also like the bit that they show. That's why I think you can almost just cut Ares out.
Yeah, exactly.
Because I like the bit where she kills the main leader, like she takes him down, and Chris Pine says to her, "No, you don't understand. Like, war goes on. Like, there's no stopping it. Like,
right.
There's no good. There's no bad. We're both to blame here, but we have to do as much as we can, like, to save it."
Yeah,
that would have been a really good ending. Just completely remove Ares. And it's like,
definitely.
No, you don't understand. Like, this is all. I mean, the Nazis bad. Well, they're not Nazis. Were they Nazis? I can't remember.
They're Nazis. It was World War One.
It was World War One, right?
Yeah. No Nazis then, man.
Wait, Germans bad.
Germans
bad. Yeah. Don't take that out of context, though.
Hey, yeah, Chris Pine said that, not me.
All right, then we can move right into the masterpiece that is Justice League, right? You guys ready to talk about this one? So I'll kick it off. This is one of my least favorite films of all time. I thought it was Suicide
Really?
Squad. It's just miserable to me, and they try like the weird part is like they keep Snyder's vision, and instead of reshooting all of it for a cheaper budget and on a faster pace and making like a bad cohesive movie, they
Mm.
just told the editor like, throw them together. Like,
Do what you can. Save it.
and what's even worse, like they make Wonder Woman after everyone, universally, like everyone was like, yeah, Wonder Woman's solid. They make her
Mhm.
character so bad that like
Yeah.
I'm just like, was Wonder Woman good? Like you do all this stuff
You're
where
like questioning the film that you just watched.
and this is a huge thing that I will always touch on. Marvel, like it or not, like you can be someone that doesn't like Marvel movies. That's fine. I love the Marvel universe. When I watch a movie like Avengers,
Mhm.
Thor's character arc in Avengers and Age of Ultron, which arguably he doesn't have a character arc in that one, and Infinity War, it adds to the character going back to those other movies and going into Justice League, watching Wonder Woman's arc and being like, oh, well, maybe I don't like Wonder Woman, and being like, I hate this Aquaman character. It just ruins everything. Like,
Yeah, and I
how do you
think
feel about this?
I think the whole thing is just completely misjudged. Like, from the circumstances surrounding the director, like it's a huge mess between Snyder and Whedon. It all gets mixed together, and I think even just the structure of the DCEU as a whole, like this film should not have been made so soon at all.
Yep.
And it really does not come together. Like, I don't think it's Suicide Squad bad. It's not quite as bad as Suicide Squad, but it is a total mess.
I 100% disagree, because the thing is, the reason I always go back to this is going back to Suicide Squad. It's like, it's bad, it's awful. However, it's harmless. Justice League is a tentpole film. Like that should be something to sustain an entire franchise.
Yes, that's
So
the thing.
either you make it and you make it great, or don't even bother.
But that's what I'm saying. It doesn't feel like a tentpole film because it's been made far too early in the grand scheme of things.
More exhausting about it. They're acting like it's just a throwaway movie.
Exactly. Yeah. It's just like, it's not even Avengers light. That would be doing it too much justice. It's like it's even worse than that. It's just such a pale comparison to what Marvel have achieved.
This movie just makes me upset. Because Stephen Wolf, what are they doing with that, by the way?
I know, he's one of the worst villains I've seen in a movie. Besides Cara Delevingne in Suicide Squad.
Oh, yeah. That would be a fun little tournament to do. All the little villains.
Yeah.
DCEU.
I think there are some fun bits in Suicide Squad, though. I think Ezra Miller is good. I think...
You mean Justice League?
Yeah. And I think there are some good dialogue scenes as well. The scene where they all get into the Batcave for the first time springs to mind. I think that's quite good. It's serviceable.
I have no chemistry.
Yeah,
they're doing this weird thing where Batman's like hitting on Wonder Woman for a majority of the movie, and it's like, what?
I mean, but doesn't Bruce Wayne kind of do that anyway?
I think the treatment of Wonder Woman in that film is questionable at best.
Yeah. Okay.
Like he brings up her dead lover. What are you doing, man?
Look at that jagoff. Oh, you say he was a pilot, huh? Oh, I've got the Batwing.
Batwing.
Yeah.
And the thing is, if you set up this universe, because DC's biggest thing and what they back themselves in a corner, and this is why, again, I'm going to disagree with you, Jude, that Justice League is the worst of these films, is they go for this tone where they're like, we are not like Marvel, we are dour, we are serious, we are all this stuff. And then they get the guy that did Avengers to make the worst version of Avengers they possibly could. And the jokes.
Why did they get Joss Whedon?
Exactly. There's no chemistry. Aquaman's this weird bro Mountain Dew spokesman. Like, Cyborg's. Oh man, I agree with you that I think Ezra Miller's fine if there's a different script and you fix his run. The run is bad.
run.
Yeah, this is one of those we could talk about forever. We can move on if you guys would like.
Yeah. Haven't seen it, don't want to.
You're in the right part. This will be interesting to hear your thoughts on Aquaman, Adrian, because you have nothing with Justice League. And just to add a little thing at the beginning, I went into Aquaman, being worried, and sort of the first 10 minutes I was like, this is going to be bad because of Justice League. But yeah, I'd like to hear your thoughts.
I was definitely skeptical too. Like I said, I didn't see Justice League, didn't want to. Batman v Superman completely ruined any kind of like team matchup kind of movie for me. But Aquaman I thought it was good. It wasn't amazing, but it was good. The CGI was a little at some points, but well, because they're underwater for most of the film.
That's a good way to describe it.
Well, because I have to call out Patrick Wilson, because his hair just looked weird while they're bobbing up and down. Yeah, and so Jason Momoa was a bit campy sometimes, but I think that's kind of what they were trying to go for. So it was fine. I didn't really mind it that much, but there were some really good scenes in it about like it spoke to a heart in a movie, which previous films that we've talked about had none of. And Jason Momoa, he keeps denying the fact that, Aquaman keeps denying the fact that like he's supposed to be King of Atlantis, like this is what he was born to do and all these kind of things, and he's just a bastard and all that. But I don't know, maybe I like Game of Thrones a little too much, and this kind of had those kind of elements.
Keyword, I was like, Game of Thrones, Kit Harington, so much better.
Well, but some of the scenes in this, like I talk about CGI sometimes and how it doesn't look realistic and how it kind of takes away from a movie sometimes, but the CGI in this was at times not great, but other times it was just striking. Like there's one particular shot that I keep thinking of, and it's Atlan, I think was the king's name, and he's got the trident in his hand. He's sitting in the throne, and the light's shining down like perfectly, and it was just a really cool looking scene. And the one girl that is his love interest looks like Ariel, so that bothered me throughout the entire film.
Jude, you watched a little bit of Aquaman, correct?
I've seen half an hour of Aquaman, yeah.
You can share your thoughts on the half hour you saw.
Well,
dive into pun intended.
Oh God, sorry, I have to say something after he's done.
I guess I have to treat it as a short film. I thought like when Aquaman gets into the submarine, I was kind of thinking, oh gosh, here we go, just another generic action scene that I'm just going to have to suffer through. And I thought the action was actually okay.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it's helped with the fact that Jason Momoa is a very good screen presence. Like you do sort of pay attention when he's on screen, which definitely helps. I thought like the origin story at the beginning was a little bit weird. I wasn't really sure what to think of that. And the bit with the kid Jason Momoa was really bad.
Both of them. Teen Jason Momoa is one of the. I'm not trying to attack child actors, but it's one of the worst like performances, and it's not his fault. That's on the director.
Yeah. But yeah, that's pretty much what my thoughts on it.
Yeah. Teen Jason Momoa was definitely not great. You know what annoyed me though is that they made it a point to like as if it mattered, right? But they made it a point to make sure that you knew that Willem Dafoe's character's a double agent. It's like, okay, I got that. Stop. Like, I don't care really at this point. He's not the. He's like, I've got to. I can't do a Willem Dafoe, but he's like, they're about to come find me. I got to get out of here. You know, it's like I don't care, man. I think. Anyway, I'm sorry. I was going to say something though about that first scene. You're absolutely right, Jude, that it has like some pretty good action in it, and which is only, amplified by the fact that Jason Momoa is a Pacific Island god, but
Yes.
you have like this moment in there right before that scene where Black Manta and his dad's like, your grandfather was one of the original frogmen. Here's this knife. It's got a Black Manta carved onto it. Wink. Like,
yeah.
I know he didn't actually wink, but like that was something to me. I feel like there are moments in movies like this where I've told this to my wife, I've told this to several other people, but I call it director nudging, where like if the director's sitting right next to you watching this film, that was the point where the director kind of goes, yeah. What do you think? And I'm like, okay. But that's all I had to say about it. I'm sorry.
I'll go right in on a couple of my. I think this is the most epic movie that is bad, but it's hard to explain. Okay, so I'll give this analogy because it's the only way I can say it, and it's gonna make no sense, but just bear with me. Man of Steel, Batman v Superman, Suicide Squad, and Justice League. They're different variants of how this goes, but in a way, it's like seeing a dead animal slowly die. Like,
wow. Okay.
Geez. Like, I'm watching this, but what are you doing?
Wow.
Whereas Aquaman is like you have a set of dead animals, but there's someone puppeteering them do a synchronized Thriller dance, and you're like, this doesn't make sense why it works. But I like this.
Wait,
I don't know how to explain it other than like there's just a weird like this. It's like you guys were mentioning. This is one of the most campy movies I've seen, but they own it.
Yeah.
So,
yeah, they really do.
Part of that, yeah, that opening scene, like, and this is one of those things where like I was like, oh my god, you're kidding me. But like it's like no, this is this movie. This is fine. When they literally pause on buffed out Jason Momoa covered in water, like burn here now, burn here now. I was like, what is going on? But at the same time, it knows what it is. So like I give James Wan a ton of credit. And I love.
You mean you don't like the scene where they're in the arena and like there's definitely no way that people see them, but they're still cheering?
Again, that stuff makes no sense. However, it doesn't take away from how big this movie is. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I'm not saying like I gave it a 3 out of 5. I'm not saying it's great. I might even bump it to a 3.5 out of 5 because every time I just think about it, I'm like, this was an event. At least it felt like a misguided Lord of the Rings with still like the passion to make a Lord of the Rings type movie. If that makes sense.
Don't you dare compare this to Lord of the Rings.
Again,
don't you dare.
I'm just saying.
Okay, here's a question though.
Go for it.
Do you think films like Aquaman and we'll get on to Shazam can be like critically successful and like high art like The Dark Knight is from DC?
Because there's the furthest thing from high art.
Right, no. And that's the thing. Like Aquaman is fun, well, presumably is fun. But if DC is going to take this direction of making fun films, then we're not going to get another Dark Knight again, if you get what I'm saying. So it's interesting to think
some of their projects. I think this was a turn. This and Shazam, I think both were a very smart and well orchestrated decision from Justice League, like the big flop that was. To be like, see guys, we're just having fun here at DC. We're just light. Like,
we're down with the kids.
Yeah. Aquaman dabs, Shazam. Hey.
Did he dab in the film?
Oh no!
Oh my god!
Pitbull's Toto.
5 out of 5.
It's aggressively bad. I don't know if you got to that part.
I was like, no. I ran through the whole movie in an instant. I was like, wait a minute. No, he didn't do that.
And another thing, we're about to get to this with Shazam. Another thing is they make heroes fun. Like you can still make a dark movie that makes your heroes like have fun with being a hero. Because Aquaman at that bar, it could have easily been a cheesy scene like Man of Steel. I think it's a direct comparison to that, where there's these biker gang and they're walking up to Aquaman and you think they're going to be like, hey, fishy boy, I hate you. And then like he'll obviously beat them up. But instead they're like,
Yeah.
can I get a picture? I was like, I like this. Like this Jason Momoa is
But
just
see,
he's a great choice.
I think that this movie in particular is kind of like the SNL of all of these films, because it does do that joke, right? It takes away from it, and it says, "Oh no, these guys are gonna try and beat him up. They want a selfie," but then it like takes it just a little bit further, and it like ends up not being as funny to me. He pulls out like a pink cell phone and all
Right.
that.
I kind of like that. Like it again,
I don't know.
because James Wan stuck to this crazy campy idea where he has for every scene where any change in exposition has to happen, they just blow up a wall behind them, which happened 3 separate times in the movie. And I was just here for it. And I actually think this will be interesting to hear your guys' thoughts. Lee Winnell, I believe is his name. He did some interesting camera work in Upgrade. I think he passed on those camera tricks to James Wan because there's some really or I wouldn't necessarily call them well shot, just well thought out scenes. Like when they're running and they do that bit where I think it's Mariana or whoever like the love interest is in this film.
Yeah.
Mara,
Ariel.
whenever she's running across, and then they do the weird like zoom thing, almost like a video game style like of action, where it goes back to Aquaman and he's running, and another person's running through like this, these houses, like all this stuff. It may not be great, but it's an interesting way he went with it, and I think it's the most watchable. It's not my favorite. We're going to get into my favorite in a second. But it's easily the most watchable for me, and it's close to 3 hours, I think.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, yeah.
It's really long, yeah.
It's 2 hours and 23 minutes, so it's not close to 3 hours. But it's weird to me that they decided to, and I almost like this, that the grand final action scene, you think it's going to be this long, well thought out. Again, to say Lord of the Rings, like in the last of the trilogy, it's this big epic fight. And they were just like, we are going to throw as many things as we can on screen, and you are going to watch it. I'm like, all right. Like, I like that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Take it. Here it is.
Absorb it.
Yeah.
But yeah, we can move right into Shazam if you want to start giving your thoughts, Jude. Adrian hasn't seen this yet, but we can just give sort of general thoughts, and we'll avoid spoilers because it just came out.
Yes.
I appreciate that.
So yeah, I got out of
everybody else
Shazam.
does too.
I got out of Shazam the other day, and I was almost angry at Shazam because I thought it could be different, and I was just disappointed. But my opinion of it is mellowed somewhat since I saw it. I think it is funny in places. It's breezy. You know, it does have entertaining scenes that I like. I think Zachary Levi is really good. I think my overall feeling though is it is quite generic. I think the family stuff, the themes of family have been done before. I think that it does the high school setting, which has been done so many times before. It doesn't really bring anything different. I mean, it doesn't help that I found the two main characters really annoying. It really
The child actors, correct, right?
Yeah. The two main like boys in it, I found quite irritating, and which didn't help. And it does have some funny moments, but then there's a lot of humor that just didn't land for me as well. That I found it was kind of obvious as well. It kind of reminded me of that, Joss Whedon MCU levels of comedy, that I'd expect from those films.
No, I don't think it's as much Josh Whedon because he's more quips.
Yeah,
I don't know. We
But
talked about this before, but we completely disagree on this. So
yes, we do. We are completely on completely different ends of the spectrum,
Interesting.
which is interesting. Yeah, we're not going to be nodding and saying yeah in agreement very often, probably.
There's another thing. I believe I read you saying this, that you thought Mark Strong was good.
He was okay. Yeah, I like Mark Strong as an actor.
He is making this movie worse. Well, he's not making the movie worse. That character is making the movie worse.
The character's making it worse. Yeah.
Yeah.
Although the one thing I did like was that little bit of misdirection at the start, which I won't spoil. Oh, well, move it out by saying that.
I will say I was very confused at what was happening.
Yes, but I liked how they did that.
But the
Wait, who
problem
does Mark
is
Strong play?
he plays the main villain.
Yes.
Oh, okay.
And I didn't know that going in
Spoilers.
that he was the villain. Yeah, I was about to say. Yeah.
It's an actor.
No, no, that's
Sorry, dude, you asked.
It's okay.
We
But
could have
the
just said
problem
a
is-
professor.
When you have that opening, I guess I could have. But
Yeah.
when you have that opening scene, the child actor is really bad, and I think the two family members that are in that scene too are really bad.
Yes.
And there's
Yeah.
nothing there at all. Where I
Yeah.
think I'm gonna have to disagree and sort of agree with you
Uh-huh.
that I understand that the family elements are bland, and part of
Uh-huh.
this may be just expectations of what DC brings. But similar to Aquaman and Wonder Woman, there's an actual heartbeat here, and I get
Right.
it's a little cheesy the way
Yeah.
they go with it, but
Mhm.
everyone that's there is like fully on board for this, like, hey, this family element of it. And like normally, again, I'm 100% with you. Maybe on a different day, I feel the same way you do. But I really, in a wild turn of events, I found the family to be charming. I thought the
Right.
parents specifically were doing a great job of. Again, I won't get into it, but they obviously they don't know the situation that's going on, and they were still like, whatever happens, like they took care of everyone. And I just,
Mhm.
I don't know, I'd like to see that like messaging and like
Yeah.
representation of a foster family like in film, and
That's true.
it was nice.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I kind of like the parents and the actors that played them. I think for me, though, and this would be interesting to know how you think about this film, but it the whole thing and like how it goes about its themes and things reminded me a lot of Jumanji.
Yes,
What-
100. Yes,
Because Jumanji is one of my least favorite films.
you're talking about Jumanji 2, just to be clear.
Jumanji 2, yes, yeah, to be clear. Because
I thought you were coming after Robin.
No. But yeah, Jumanji is one of my least favorite films, and Shazam is nowhere near as bad as Jumanji. But there is the kind of same thing where it's like, yeah, we get it about the family coming first, and like this guy doesn't have a family, so he's evil and he's angry and whatever, and family wins the day and whatever. And I don't know, I thought it was quite worn out. I feel like I'd seen it done a lot in other places before.
I'd for sure agree with you if it weren't, and we disagree with this, so this is probably where a large part of it comes from. And I think this is where a large part of it comes from for other people, that Zachary Levi and Jack Dylan Grazer, they're both terrific. I think they're both terrific together, and they have this
Right.
amazing chemistry. Obviously, that didn't work for you, but I think so many people see this like great performance from Zachary Levi.
Yeah.
However, like I still gave it a 7 out of 10. Because there are those terrible, terrible moments that they have where it's like, what are we doing like here?
Yeah.
But one thing I'm gonna have to disagree with you on, because you enjoyed Man of Steel. I think the thing that this does so well is that it completely says this is what a hero is. He saves people, and it adds, because obviously he's a 14-year-old kid, if you guys know the story of Shazam. But it adds that element of he doesn't necessarily want to be a hero, but in a turn, like in all these events that follow, he's going to find out how. And I never felt that with Man of Steel. I never felt that with Batman v Superman. And to some extent, I didn't necessarily feel Wonder Woman had enough of an attachment to the humans to make that, heroic moment for them. Same with Aquaman. Like, I don't think he has those ties to like save humanity. Whereas I think here it worked quite well.
I think one of the like most enjoyable parts of Shazam is getting to see Shazam develop as a superhero and discover things about himself and work out, exactly what he's supposed to be doing. The thing that immediately comes to mind is the scene with "Don't Stop Me Now" over the top of it.
I was very worried. Did you see the trailers for this?
I did
Great
not
song.
know. It is.
Not that song. They were playing Kendrick Lamar's "Be Humble." And it was this weird poppy like version of it. And I was really worried because like I knew they were getting to that montage, and I was like, oh no, please don't do it. And then it was "Don't Stop Me Now." I was like, Yeah.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
of course,
Did they ever use the
know,
Kendrick Lamar song?
no, they don't use it at all. Which
What?
that song is so annoying. They use the like Shazam will floss to it like in promos, and I was like, oh god. This is gonna be bad. But
Yeah.
a couple
He's gonna
a
floss
couple
to it.
people walked into Shazam and were like, "Oh, Don't Stop Me Now. That's the song from that movie Bohemian Rhapsody."
Yeah.
Oh yeah. Oh
And
god.
that's what I
That
was
point-
thinking. Because like that scene in Shazam is probably one of my favorite scenes, and I'm thinking, oh, maybe Bohemian Rhapsody wasn't as good as I thought it was, and it was just all the Queen songs that I liked. Watching it.
Yeah, but I think it's weird that certain moments didn't work for you as well, because I think there's great comedic moments, and I really wouldn't say obvious. What's weird is this is from a horror director switching over, so you don't think you'd get that like comedic timing that he would have. But the pacing just really worked for me, and I thought Levi and Grazer had great timing together. But yeah, we can move on if you have nothing else, because that's about all I have to say without spoilers.
Yes, yeah, I think that's pretty much it for me as well. Yeah.
All right, so we're going to look through the upcoming films for DC. We went ahead and included Joker, so we'll get right started with that. Obviously, it's not affiliated with the DCEU, but it was just nice to throw in because I think for the most part, we're all really excited for it. Joaquin Phoenix is going to be great. But yeah, do you guys have any quick thoughts you want to add?
No, just apart from the trailer looked surprisingly good. Like I was hoping not to have high expectations going in, so I could just, watch it without any prior expectations at all. But now I've seen the trailer, I'm quite excited, which is worrying if it's going to be a flop.
Oh, I hope it won't be, but it looks like JP's putting a lot of work into this role. Like he looks unnerving in this film, and
Definitely.
I think that's exactly what we need.
Sure. And I actually don't think Jared Leto's that bad of a performance. I think it's the editing that goes on while he's doing it made everyone think he was the problem. Because I think he actually did. Because again, you're asking this guy to do a character, and he is giving the best performance he possibly could.
Mm-hmm.
I genuinely don't like that Joker. I genuinely don't like his Joker. Like,
No.
I don't like anything about it.
I think the character is the problem, not the performance, is where I sit on it. So I get what you're saying.
And
Okay,
definitely. People talk about like the tattoos and things, like the damage tattoo, and it's like Jared Leto wasn't in charge of the makeup, And so I think his performance is okay. But yeah, the character, the way it was made up, was really flawed. Yeah,
he was dealt a bad hand, pretty much.
Definitely.
Oh, for sure. But next we have, speaking of Suicide Squad affiliates, Birds of Prey. So the all-female cast with Margot Robbie, Mary Elizabeth Winstead, and Ewan McGregor.
Yes.
I'm really interested about the director, but other than that, I don't know too much. This could be good, could be bad.
I know Margot Robbie's producing, so maybe she has more of a stake in it, and maybe she.
Yeah.
So
I think this is probably the one I'd signpost as the one I'm most looking forward to, because I think if we did get anything out of Suicide Squad, it was Harley Quinn and Margot Robbie playing her. Mm-hmm. I think if this film can put her front and center and build something that really fits her wild personality, then that there could be something promising there, and at the very least, something fun.
Gotcha. That's interesting that you picked that out of all of them. Then I guess we'll just go to the next one. Wonder Woman 88. Director Patty Jenkins returns. Gal Gadot, Chris Pine, Kristen Wiig, Pedro Pascal. I'm interested, but a little hesitant on that because I'm just worried that bringing Chris Pine back could be a major mistake.
I think it'll just be flashbacks or something. I don't think he'll actually be coming back.
Yeah, that's what I was wondering about as well, whether he will actually be coming back or whether it will be flashbacks.
That's where I think like this movie will decide if it's on the side of it could be the better side of good or the bad side of bad. But I like Pedro Pascal.
I mean, it's interesting because I think a lot of people would say that Wonder Woman was the best DCU film we've had so far, and I'd probably agree. But I don't know. There's something about more Wonder Woman that's just kind of I don't know. I don't know how you guys think about that, but I feel like there are more interesting projects that could
I
possibly be good than
Males coming at Wonder Woman 88.
It's Wonder
Look,
Woman
I'm just
84.
We already had one Wonder Woman.
No, I really only have one note on this. Kristen Wiig,
Oh yes.
like,
That-
And that's another part where I'm interested but hesitant as her
Yes.
being the villain.
It's very interesting.
because Cheetah is already a weird villain matchup to
Wonder Woman.
So I don't know. We'll see.
We'll just go right on to the next one. This movie might not be made. The Batman, directed by Matt Reeves. They're literally tossing out tons of actors. I'm interested.
Yeah.
I don't think Matt Reeves is as good of a director as other people, because a lot of people are like, "Oh, this is a dream Batman director." I just,
I don't know about that.
yeah, I'm a little confused how people are like, "That was a great signing." I'm like, oh, he's fine.
Yeah. I mean, it's interesting. Like, I did realize, like, oh my god, we haven't had a Batman film yet in the DCEU. That's really weird. And yeah, it'll be interesting because obviously Ben Affleck has been sort of the anchor point in a lot of DCEU films, but never given a spotlight in the same way. So it would be interesting if he was to be given a chance to do his own
Well,
film.
he's not in it.
No, he's
Is he
writing.
not? Is he completely just out of it now?
I'm pretty sure that Ben Affleck is just off the project.
See, that's really interesting.
Wait, he's off the project for the Batman?
So I'm almost 100% positive that he is not writing. He's not doing the acting. He's just taking a leave of absence to go do his own thing for a little bit.
That's kind of disappointing because, like, I feel like it's hard to get a purchase on how good his Batman was because I don't think we really ever got enough time to really know his character.
And that's my issue with Batman v Superman and Justice League. The problem is they go into that movie because Avengers, if someone watched Avengers with no context, it is a very bad movie. If they watch Infinity War with no context, there are good moments, but you'd probably, again, be like, this is bad because there's no there's no groundwork for it. And Justice League and Batman v Superman both are like, oh, well, you know Batman. And it's like 50 interpretations of Batman. Which one are you picking?
It's like, when are we gonna have some new stuff, man? Like, you don't have to keep rehashing the same old crap. Like, we know what Batman is. We know who Wonder Woman is. We know, like, I'm still excited for the Joker, but we've seen the Joker 4 different times now.
That's true.
And I think it kind of gets over again, like I said at the beginning of this, it gets oversaturated, and it gets to the point where, like, literally anything original at this point would be welcome. Anything.
This is a great segue to the Suicide Squad.
I'm so interested in this film.
I'm interested in it.
James Gunn directing.
If they outright say, hey, we made a whoopsie, Suicide Squad was bad, this is the real one, then I'm sort of like, okay, I guess you did a course correction. Or I'm 100% with you. Like, let something breathe for a second. Like, we shouldn't get to the point where we're remaking properties 3 years after they were made. Like, no.
Yeah, the horse just got done with the race, guys. Don't send him right back out. He's gonna die. His heart's gonna explode.
And that's the interesting thing, though. When our audience is gonna get bored of that, when our audience is gonna decide, now, you know what, we've had enough of you remaking films 3 or 4 years after they were first released. You know, we don't want this anymore. Is that something that's gonna come soon, or are we gonna be stuck with this for 10 more years?
Well, according to the DC fanboys, first you have to shut down Rotten Tomatoes. So, I mean, and only then.
For a while, because people are still really excited for the live action Lion King.
Gosh,
I
literally most pointless movie.
I don't want to get into that.
No,
because what these major studios do, instead of being like, how can we make a good movie, the first question they ask is, how can we make money? And
absolutely.
they go to things like, that's why a Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles movie gets made. and they never asked, "Hey, how do we make a good Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles movie?"
Yeah.
They just said,
And why should we?
"Yeah,
Apart
it has
from
the
money.
name. It has the name attached to it. And it has, who someone would think, oh, this is a good director, good actors, but
Hmm.
it's just a product. That's all it
Yeah.
is.
Exactly.
And they're clearly going for the Guardians of the Galaxy standpoint this time.
Yeah.
It's like
for sure." And
let's
that's
see what
part of my
happens.
problem again. This feels like deja vu to Justice League, where they're
Yeah.
like, "Oh, we're not Marvel," and then they make a
Yeah.
movie that people already compared to Guardians with the Guardians director. It's like,
Yeah.
what? Who's running this? That's probably enough for the Suicide Squad.
Yeah.
We'll get into the latest of the projects. The Flash. This is
Yes.
still directed. I checked to make sure. By John Francis Daly and Jonathan M. Goldstein. Stars Ezra Miller, Kiersey Clemens, and Billy Crudup. What do you guys think?
I'm kind of intrigued by it. Like the directors, they directed Game Night, which was one of my favorite films of 2018. So if they can bring that same comedic flair to the character, as long as it's not too much, obviously Ezra Miller is a good fit for that. Then I'm kind of intrigued by it. Yeah, I'm excited to see how it turns out if it is still happening, because I've heard mixed things about if it's still happening at the moment.
Yeah. Again, I looked it up. As of March, they're still on the project, but they could have easily left, and it hasn't been announced yet. Adrian, how do you feel about this one?
I'm not a huge fan of Ezra Miller in any of his other stuff anyway, so having him cast the forefront of this is kind of to me. But I'll tell you what, based on what you've said about Billy Crudup, I think I don't think this movie's shaping up to be really that good. I think it's going to be another like installment of DC Tried. I mean, 'cause
is that your rebranding of the DCEU? God.
look, I'll tear it down if I have to. I'm tired of seeing like it's like when you see somebody who you really don't like and then they just keep succeeding and you don't know why,
Yeah.
and you're praying to the universe like, so, please somehow something bring this down. Maybe this will be the movie to do that. But
your cynicism came out on The Flash, because I am completely the opposite of you on this. This is the one I'm the most excited for, and it comes down to
Really?
Ezra Miller's interesting because I don't necessarily. The Run is specifically where I get upset about, but John Francis Daly and Jonathan M. Goldstein are wonderful picks for
Yes.
directors on this project. And what confuses me is, again, you said, Jude, you were talking about Game Night. They directed it. Obviously, like, that's a comedy where, like, you could have just done a by the numbers, like, and this is with Shazam. It's by the numbers cinematography. It's by the numbers score, like all this stuff. And I think with Game Night, with getting these two guys, you're getting people that they could have just made a funny movie and people still would have seen it. And they're like, oh no, let's put some fun stuff in this. Like, let's try. And that right there, and just that premise like interests me very much. But the one thing I don't understand, everyone's saying like they can't find a writing team. The directors on this are the writers that have done both The Horrible Bosses, Cloudy with a Chance of Meatballs 2, Vacation, the reboot that I quite enjoy, Burt Wonderstone, which is funny and bad, but pretty funny in a lot of parts.
That's
and
a bad funny movie for sure.
Exactly. I'm not saying it's good or redeemable or anything, but it's one of those where it's like, this is hot garbage, but it's my hot garbage. But most importantly, they did the writing on Spider-Man Homecoming, which I thought was one of the best parts in that movie. So why aren't you begging these guys to, hey, you are fully in charge of The Flash, and you guys get all creative control? Because I think they've shown promise,
You know that's not how it goes. Like you know Like, just look at any of the films that we just talked about.
We can hope.
I disagree because I think with Aquaman, Aquaman is such a bad character that they said, all right, James Wan, just I don't know. It's one of those like the kid you don't care about in a family of 8. They're like, all right, Todd, you can play hockey if you want to, and then he turns out to be
if you want.
star.
I guess, but I don't know. Like, when does Cyborg get a movie? You know?
He's not
Never,
getting a
please
movie.
Stop it.
Because I feel the same way about as I do about Cyborg. It doesn't.
Cyborg has no director on it. Like, if they had announced anything, I could give my thoughts of whether it's or meh or good. But they have nothing for that movie, and I think
I'd rather see Aquaman 2 than The Flash. Let me put it that way.
Aquaman 2 is coming. It's just not on their slate yet.
Of course it is.
But yeah, I think it comes out 2022.
Wow.
Which excites me because they're taking their time, and it'll be Lord of the Rings trilogy light.
Harkening back all the way back to what we were saying before. Just keep saturating the media, please. Just keep giving us the same stuff.
I think DC.
Sorry, my cynicism's starting to come out.
Yeah, no, you're fine. Definitely going through like all these movies, I can understand. But I think that's just with the bigger movies. And one thing I think would be so interesting for either DC or Marvel or one of these independent studios was just like, say a character like Batman, is you take a risk and you give a director that has a good vision. Maybe it's a failure, that's fine. But you give him 20 mil. Obviously, Batman v Superman was given like $275 million. So when you have that responsibility, you have so much pressure. And like, if you're going to make a Batman movie, just make a Batman movie. Like, but it doesn't have to be like the Batman movie, which is literally like the title. Like, it's called the.
I wish it was called The Batman Movie. Or like have a title like, this one is the Batman movie. Please. No, and every time I see the title, all I can think is what was it? I think it was Cartoon Network. The Batman. That one.
Oh yeah, that was on Kids WB, and it later got on Cartoon Network.
Yeah.
But yeah,
sorry.
I think that about
a little nostalgia.
That about wraps it up for us. So we're gonna get into recommends of the week. Unfortunately, because I guess I'll go first. I was rewatching the DCEU. I also, in my spare time, my wee spare time this week, I watched Mars Needs Moms and The Brave Little Toaster, none of which I can recommend. So there will be no movie recommend this week. However, I would like to recommend Roy Fuki's Scenery. I might be mispronouncing that name, but he's a jazz pianist. It's one of the best albums I've ever heard. If you like some of the music in Monsters, Inc. or Up or all that stuff, it's just very uplifting. I listen to it a lot when I study. It just sort of helps me get in like a productive mood, studying or writing, any of that stuff. So yeah, Roy Fuki's Scenery full album. It's lots of fun. Adrian, what do you have that you've been watching this week?
Well, Diane and I revisited a little film called Isle of Dogs. And if you haven't heard of it already, I fell in love with it all over again. And Wes Anderson just completely knocks it out of the park for me. I loved Moonrise Kingdom. I loved Fantastic Mr. Fox. You know, I could watch this movie over and over again. The soundtrack is great. The cinematography is great. And just the motion capture is the best that I've seen in any movie that is like this stylistically driven. So if you haven't watched it already, please go watch Isle of Dogs. It's well worth it.
Yes, definitely.
Gotta rewatch this week. Jude, what have you been watching?
I've gone for funny games for my recommendation of the week. I watched the 2008 English language version, and my understanding is that it's exactly the same as the original. So go for either one you want. But yeah, I think funny games, if you're a horror fan, it is essential viewing. You know, the messages in the film are really interesting about violence and how we consume horror media and that kind of thing. And even if you don't 100% agree with what Michael Haneke is saying in the film, I think it really gives you food for thought. It's really interesting. It's effectively shocking. It's cruel, and it's really unique. So yeah, Funny Games, my recommendation for the week.
Nice.
Great. I think that about wraps it up for us. If you guys want to follow us on Letterboxd and just see what we're doing in our spare time, feel free. I am at 50 Shades of Hey. Jude?
I am at Jude JFR.
Then Adrian, he doesn't really have a letterbox, but maybe we can get him, more invested. Right now, he only has one film watched.
I technically have a Letterboxd account, so, but that's going to be at Dirty Cone, DIRTCONE TY.
Nice.
Oh, dang! I screwed it up. I'm a professional, everyone.
And Adrian also has a separate YouTube channel, a gaming channel, where him and his wife Diane.
So my wife and I run a gaming channel. It's like gaming, and we're working on a bunch of other projects right now. Where we've got a lot of stuff in the works, but it's called Runner Ups. And if you want to check us out, we have some gaming playthroughs, we have some guests on, and we're gonna be having a lot more content coming up soon. So please check us out, give it a look, see what you think.
Excellent.
A lot of fun. But yeah, that about wraps it up for us. All those links will be in the description below. The next, give me one second. Next week's episode will likely be more of a laid back, like, questions you guys ask, and we'll read those. Maybe we'll come up with some interesting premises, or maybe we can squeeze some type of theme, but aren't that many movies coming out next week. So it's hard to have like a central theme.
Yes.
So yeah.
Send us an email.
Oh, yes, of course. If you guys want to reach us to give us that email, it's allthatfilm1@gmail.com.
Please
again, we'll include that in the description below.
No, I just said, please send something.
Anything.
We've gotten like 3 emails. One was Blake, who was on last episode, just sending us pictures of minions. Please send us anything else.
Yeah.
But yeah, we'll be reading a couple questions we get. Hopefully we get like 10 decent questions that we can talk about.
Yes.
Then we can, just discuss them. But yeah, hope you guys enjoyed this episode, and see you soon.
Just like a bat. I dig it.